Hi there, I'm Raylene. And yes, it's true. My husband kicked me out of the car while I was in labor and drove off for a mountain getaway with his parents. That moment didn't just break my body, it shattered every illusion I had about love, family, and loyalty, but that was only the beginning. What kind of man does that to the mother of his child? Have you ever been pushed aside by the people who should have stood by you? What time are you listening to this, and what part of the world are you tuning in from? Drop a comment below, I genuinely want to know. The morning started with a sky washed in pale indifference. I sat stiffly in the passenger seat of Joel's SUV, the leather cold against my back, my overnight bag tucked beneath my feet. He was humming to some throwback tune on the radio, drumming his fingers like we were on a date, not on the verge of welcoming a child into the world. "You sure you're up for this trip?" I asked, watching his reflection in the side mirror. He didn't even glance at me. "It's just a few hours, Ray. Your doctor said it's not like you're delivering today." I pressed my hand to my belly. The pressure was sharp, tight. I had been feeling off all night, but Joel dismissed it as nerves. I wanted to believe him. I wanted so badly to believe he still cared. Then, the sudden gush of warmth between my legs stole every illusion. "My water just broke," I said, barely above a whisper. Joel slammed on the brakes. "You're kidding me. Right now? Jesus, Raylene. Seriously?" He pulled over so abruptly that my body jolted against the seatbelt. I tried to unbuckle and sit up, but the cramping had already begun. My breath caught in my throat. "We need to go to the hospital," I said. "Now." But he didn't move. He turned off the ignition, got out of the car, walked around to my side, and opened the door. "Get out." I blinked. "What?" "You heard me. You're not ruining this trip. I've been planning it for weeks." "You planned a trip knowing I could go into labor?" My voice cracked. He didn't answer. Just grabbed my bag, set it on the curb like luggage on a flight he was ditching, and stood there waiting for me to climb out of the car while my baby fought to enter the world. I sat frozen, trembling. "Joel, please, don't make this harder than it needs to be." His eyes were empty. He shut the door. He drove away. I stood there, soaked, shaking, knees buckling, on a quiet suburban street outside Monument, Colorado, as if the whole world had decided I wasn't worth the space I took up. I don't remember calling anyone. I just remember Ramona's face, my neighbor, her car screeching up beside me. She helped me in, wrapped me in her coat, and held my hand while I screamed through contractions in the back seat. At the hospital, everything happened in a blur. IVs, nurses' voices, a blur of pain and disbelief. But the hardest part wasn't the labor. It was the silence of the man I thought would be beside me. My phone stayed quiet. No texts, no apology, just a gaping, final absence. They placed my daughter in my arms, and I cried not from the pain, but from the weight of knowing. He wasn't coming. He never planned to. 3 hours later, a nurse burst into the room with her phone in hand. "Is this you?" she asked. The video was grainy but unmistakable. Me, alone on the sidewalk, doubled over, clutching my belly. Joel driving off. A woman's voice in the background shouting, "Is she in labor? He's leaving her!" By noon, it was everywhere. Labor abandonment was trending. Headlines screamed, "Wife left in labor on sidewalk, Colorado man vanishes." My face, swollen with pain, was plastered across news outlets, blogs, angry comment sections. Joel's name wasn't spared either. His law firm's page went offline by sunset. Lying there in the sterile light, holding my baby close, I couldn't decide what burned more, the exposure or the validation. The whole country knew now. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't exaggerating. He really did that. Still, I felt like I'd been cracked open twice. Once by childbirth, and once by the final proof that the man I married no longer existed. I stared at my daughter's tiny hands wrapped around my finger. That morning, he drove off. That morning, I finally stopped hoping he would ever come back. The hospital room dimmed as night crept in, washing everything in sterile blue. My daughter slept in the bassinet beside me, her chest rising with fragile rhythm, a rhythm that somehow kept me grounded. I should have felt whole. But there was a hole so loud inside me it drowned out even the beeping monitors. I pressed my forehead against the window pane, watching condensation bead up and run like little escapes. My reflection stared back, messy hair, hollow eyes, hospital bracelet still tight on my wrist. I whispered into the quiet, "This isn't new." Because it wasn't. Joel had been leaving long before that car door slammed shut. I remembered 3 months into the pregnancy when I suggested we update the house deed together. I wanted to feel secure, needed it, honestly, with a baby coming. But when I checked the county records, my name wasn't there. Just his. "Why am I not listed?" I asked, holding my phone out to him. He didn't even look up from his laptop. "It's just paperwork, Ray. Don't make it a thing." But it was a thing. A very loud, silent thing. I started checking other documents, the baby's future savings account we agreed to open, the car registration, even the health insurance policy, all in his name, every last one. I wasn't a partner in this life. I was a tolerated accessory, one he could unclip the moment it got inconvenient. That night, I lay awake, Googling prenup loopholes while he snored beside me, unaware, or maybe entirely aware, of the war unfolding inches away. Weeks later, I was organizing the mail pile on the kitchen counter. Junk, credit card offers, some insurance statements, and then a thick envelope addressed to Joel from a bank I didn't recognize. I opened it on instinct. My breath caught. It wasn't just a bank. It was a whole account, a savings account with years of deposits. Steady, scheduled. The earliest transaction dated back to 6 months before our wedding. He'd been building something, just not with me. That night I asked carefully, "Are we saving for something?" He looked up, expression cold, eyes sharp. "Not everything's about you, Ray." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I locked myself in the bathroom, sank to the floor, the envelope still in my hands. I studied every number, every line, every deposit. I couldn't even cry. I just sat there, the tile cold against my spine, finally understanding. He never intended to build anything with me. I was supposed to orbit him, not walk beside him. Now, back in the hospital, I watched my daughter shift in her sleep. Her fingers curled like little questions, and I made a silent vow. I won't let her grow up invisible. I turned my phone over in my hand, thumb hovering. Then I typed a message, short, clear. "Hi, I need to speak with someone about asset protection. Real estate attorney preferred." The first red flag was silence. I scrolled through our neighborhood group chat, fingers trembling slightly, half expecting to see a message I'd missed. A meme, a laugh, an invite. But there was nothing. Just the same string of messages about snack tables and balloon arches. My name? Not once. I texted Darla. "Hey, am I missing something? I thought we were still planning the shower together." A minute later, the response came. Cold. Clipped. "We figured you needed rest. It's for the best, Raylene. For the best." That phrase scratched at something raw in me. She hadn't said it with care. She said it like I'd been excused. Like I was an obligation someone finally decided to skip. I pulled up Facebook out of instinct, and there it was. A carousel of photos. My husband, his cousins, her bridge club, even Nurse Mallory from the OBGYN's office, standing under a pastel banner that read, "We love Baby Carter." I wasn't in a single frame because I hadn't been invited. My throat tightened, my belly ached, not from the baby, but from the weight of betrayal. They'd celebrated my child without me. I stared at one picture, Darla, beaming, hands on her hips like she owned the womb herself. People smiled under streamers and stacked gifts beside a cake shaped like a bassinet. I couldn't look away. Later that evening, Joel walked in with a bag of leftover cookies. "You guys had the shower today?" My voice came out smaller than I expected. He didn't blink. "It wasn't a big deal. You're tired." Everyone agreed. "Everyone?" You should be grateful people even showed up, he added, throwing the bag onto the kitchen counter. I didn't flinch, but inside, something cracked. The next morning, I walked to the cafe 2 blocks down, just to breathe. The barista smiled too brightly. A woman from the neighborhood leaned in near the condiment station. I heard you've been having a tough time. Emotionally, I mean. Darla said you weren't doing well. Hormones and all? I didn't reply. I just nodded slowly, pretending to stir my coffee while the walls swayed. By the time I got home, my head was ringing with her voice. Unstable, emotional, not coping well. Had Joel fed them this? Or had Darla taken it further? I opened my laptop and started reading. Terms I never thought I'd need. Perinatal mental illness, legal implications, maternal competency hearings. My pulse raced as I realized what this was. They weren't just excluding me. They were building a case. That night, I sat in the living room, bathed in lamplight. I opened my phone camera, pressed record. I'm Raylene Carter, I said clearly. I'm expecting my first child. I am of sound mind and body, and I am not unwell. I stared into the lens, not blinking, not shaking. If anyone ever tries to say otherwise, here's the truth. From me. I saved the video. Not public, not yet, but it existed. My voice, unfiltered. A preemptive strike in the war I hadn't realized had already started. It started with a receptionist's pause. I'm sorry, Ms. Carter, she said, eyes darting across her screen. It looks like your file is pending new authorization. We can't confirm the appointment until that's cleared. My heart beat a little faster. What do you mean pending? Someone submitted a change in your primary insurance. It's not finalized yet, but... I didn't wait to hear the rest. I walked out into the parking lot, the spring heat pressing down on my skin, and pulled up my insurance portal. There it was. My name no longer the main policyholder. Instead, listed in bold, Darla Carter. Underneath, in small, sterile letters, Raylene Carter, dependent. Dependent. That word felt like it had teeth. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just a clerical error. It was a message. I wasn't just being watched. I was being replaced. That night, I stood in the hallway of our house and asked Joel outright, "Why is your mother listed as the primary on my insurance?" He didn't even look up from his phone. "It's just temporary in case something happens. You know, an emergency." I stared at him. "That doesn't make sense. I'm the one pregnant. I'm the one at risk." He shrugged, almost bored. "She's just better with forms." "Forms?" I repeated, my voice rising. "This isn't a permission slip for a school trip, Joel. This is my body, my baby." He muttered something about me overreacting and went back to scrolling. That night, I sat at the dining table documenting everything, screenshots, voice memos, my own notes. I whispered as I wrote, "They're replacing me. On paper first." 2 days later, it got worse. At a follow-up visit, a nurse I'd chatted with before lowered her voice while checking my chart. "I probably shouldn't say this, but your mother-in-law asked if she could be listed as your medical proxy." My mouth went dry. "What?" "She said she needed it in case of complications during labor. It hasn't been processed yet." Complications. As if she were waiting for me to fail. I walked out of the office and sat in the car with the AC blasting, but still felt like I was burning alive. If Joel signed off, she could legally override my decisions. If I were unconscious, if something went wrong, I could wake up without a baby in my arms. That night, I wrote an email to Chloe, my college roommate who now worked for a family law firm. I didn't explain everything, just enough. Just enough to let her know I needed someone who understood how people twisted paper into power. Then I went to my office, locked the door, and set my phone on its stand. I looked at my reflection in the screen, eyes shadowed, skin pale, mouth tight. "If anything happens to me during labor," I said slowly, "if I'm unconscious or restrained, this is not my consent." I saved the video, then again in a second drive, then emailed it to Chloe. They could try to replace me in forms, in whispers, in legal footnotes. but I was still the mother, and I wasn't going to let them forget it. The envelope was crisp and glossy, tucked between a grocery flyer and an electric bill. My fingers froze when I saw the return address, St. Vincent Academy for Boys. Inside, a trifold brochure with beaming students and ivy-covered walls slid out, along with a partially completed application. Joel's handwriting, his signature. My heart sank. I stared at the line labeled Primary Guardian. My name wasn't there. I walked into the kitchen and set the papers down in front of him. "What is this?" He didn't even look embarrassed. "It's just a preliminary look. Don't get dramatic." "Boarding school?" "He's not even born yet, Joel." He crossed his arms. "Look, we both know you've been under a lot of stress lately. I'm thinking ahead. Stability matters." I stood there, mouth open. It wasn't just condescension. It was strategy. This wasn't about concern. It was about custody. It hit me like a slow bruise. He'd been preparing this for months, asking if I felt overwhelmed, suggesting I nap more, pushing prenatals at odd times. They weren't just gestures. They were preambles to erasure. I called the school. The receptionist's tone was syrupy but firm. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but only the guardian listed can access the file." "And who's listed?" "I can't disclose that." But I already knew. Later that night, when Joel left for his gym time, I opened his tablet. The lock screen still had our wedding photo. That irony tasted like rust. His passcode was the same, lazy, predictable. Inside were folders, emails, a conversation with a family attorney dating back 3 weeks. Subject, custody options, preemptive. I read every word. His lawyer suggested documentation of emotional instability, emphasizing their advantage if witnesses could confirm my mental health issues. One reply was from Darla. "I've already spoken to Pastor Jim. He remembers Raylene zoning out at Easter brunch, said he's happy to help." I didn't cry. I copied the entire thread, printed every email, every thread, every attachment. Then I called Chloe. She didn't hesitate. "You need to build a wall of proof, not just emotion." Facts, I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I've got them." That night, I sat at my desk and organized everything into folders: legal, medical, witnesses, timeline. I wasn't just defending my motherhood anymore. I was preparing to protect my child from the people who thought they could outmaneuver me with lawyers and lies. Before bed, I left Joel a note on the fridge. "Try and take my son away from me again, and you'll see just how capable I am when cornered." Then I clicked send on the email to Chloe with every single document attached. It came in the family group chat. No context, just a short video. I tapped it, and there I was, 8 months pregnant, struggling on the icy driveway, my feet slipping out from under me. The camera caught Joel standing a few feet away, hands in his pockets, grinning. In the background, his laugh, sharp, cutting. Darla's caption sealed the cruelty. "And she thinks she's ready for motherhood?" My fingers shook, my chest tightened. This wasn't an accident. It was warfare, with pixels and judgment. I remembered that day. I'd asked Joel to salt the steps. He said, "You've got 2 legs, use 'em." I remembered his phone angled toward me, not offering help, but capturing it. I'd told myself he was texting. Now I knew better. I stormed into the living room. "You filmed that and shared it?" Joel didn't even flinch. "It was just for laughs. No one outside the family will see it." I turned to walk away, and he added, "You need to stop taking everything so personally." Chloe's voice rang in my head from a week ago. "They're not just mocking you. They're building a case. Every story has a villain. They're casting you." 3 days later, I knew she was right. Another mom at drop-off barely looked me in the eye. Someone had sent the clip to the PTA group chat. No name, just the video and a message. "Is this who we trust around our kids?" I got a call from the assistant at the firm. She sounded rehearsed. "There's concern, Raylene. Maybe you should take some time off?" At the grocery store, 2 women from church moved their carts when they saw me, like shame was contagious. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I filmed. Sitting on the floor of my closet, I spoke into my phone. I'm Raylene Carter. I've been called unstable. I've been recorded without consent. I've been painted as hysterical, so here's what you won't see on that video. I told the story, not with bitterness, but with clarity. How my husband left me on the sidewalk in labor, how I found my name missing from the house title, the boarding school brochure, the proxy forms, the edited clip. I didn't ask for pity. I demanded truth. Then I clicked save, sent it to Chloe, breathed. That night, I drove to the school and asked to meet the principal. We'll need to discuss what's being said about me. Are you okay? She asked, the standard American pleasantry that rarely means anything. I wasn't, but I'm getting there. Later, I sat in my car, engine off, hands gripping the wheel. My reflection in the rear view looked tired, but not broken. They want war? I whispered. They've got it. I posted my story on a private forum for women facing smear campaigns and custody battles. Attached receipts, names. It didn't go public, not yet. But the silence afterward felt different, charged, electric. The envelope arrived in an unmarked package. No return address, just my name scribbled in blue ink I recognized immediately as Chloe's. Inside, a single sheet, notarized, folded neatly. I opened it with the calm of someone who already knew the bomb was coming. Still, the words pierced. I, Joel Carter, hereby relinquish all current and future legal or financial responsibility for any children resulting from this marriage. Signed, dated, 3 weeks before I missed my period. 3 weeks before he looked me in the eyes and told me he wanted to start a family. The paper slipped from my fingers. My mouth went dry. I reread the signature. It was his, and it had always been his plan. 6 months ago, he insisted I take it easy and let him handle the bills. You just focus on the baby, he'd said, rubbing my shoulder with the kind of fake tenderness that now made my skin crawl. That was the same week this document had been signed. When I showed it to Chloe, her hands flew to her mouth. He planned this whole thing, she said, staring at the date. He wanted the baby, not the mother. Number. He didn't even want the baby. He wanted the control. I booked an appointment with a financial advisor the next morning. If Joel was laying traps, I needed to know the full terrain. I expected red flags. I didn't expect to find the ground gone. According to these records, the advisor said, eyes scanning his screen, Joel transferred most of his company shares, over 80%, to a third party, a Ramona Carter, his sister, the same sister who just wanted to help with the nursery. The transfer happened 2 weeks after I announced the pregnancy on Facebook. Legally, his net worth is close to zero now, the advisor added, too gently. I pressed my hands into my thighs to keep from shaking. He's not preparing for a divorce, I said aloud. He's building his escape pod. Chloe and I met again that night, this time at her firm's office. The receptionist had already gone home. The halls were dark except for her desk lamp, throwing soft shadows on a stack of legal forms between us. I filed a motion to freeze his assets. Challenged the equity transfer as fraudulent conveyance. We drafted a declaration stating that Joel's pattern of behavior, including digital defamation, financial manipulation, and legal deceit, was grounds for injunctive relief and asset review. The more I read out loud, the more my voice hardened. Not into rage, but clarity. At midnight, I sat at her keyboard. My finger hovered over the digital signature box. This was the moment. I clicked. You don't get to vanish, Joel, I whispered, the sound thick in my throat. You don't get to write me out of the story you started. I didn't want to go. My body screamed for rest. My mind screamed louder. But Joel insisted, said the trip to the Appalachian cabin was just what we need, said it would look good to the family court. People need to see we're stable. He smiled like it meant something. When I hesitated, he added, unless you want to make this harder on yourself. Ramona pulled me aside before we left. Darla's being quiet. Too quiet. Be ready. Her words followed me into the trees. The cabin sat in a clearing, cloaked by dense pine and the kind of silence that makes your thoughts sound like gunshots. I barely had time to take off my coat when I realized this wasn't a retreat. It was a stage. Darla sat poised near the fireplace, Joel to her left, his sister to her right. The chairs were set like a panel. I stood across from them, a single wooden chair placed carefully in the middle of the room. My name was already carved into the outcome. "Let's talk," Darla said. "This has gone far enough." They spoke in turns. Joel said I was making things public. Darla said the custody threats were necessary if I continued to act emotionally. Ramona stayed silent in the hallway, frozen. I listened to their voices tangle into a rope of accusation, each word a pull tighter. Then came the threat. "If you drop the lawsuits," Joel said, "we can revisit custody later." Darla added softly, "Otherwise, Joel will pursue full custody. The baby can grow up in peace, without the instability." My heart was a live wire under my ribs. "You want me gone?" I said. "No," Joel said. "We want what's best for the child." I sat down, shaking. "And erasing his mother is what you call best?" No one answered. That night, I stayed awake on the cabin porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching mist curl off the trees. Ramona appeared behind me. She slipped a folded document into my hand. "I wasn't supposed to show you this," she whispered, "but you deserve to know." It was yellowed from age, notarized in Darla's handwriting, a prenuptial agreement. One clause was underlined. In the event of divorce, the wife forfeits parental rights unless the husband is proven unfit. "She made him sign this before you married," Ramona said. "She planned for this, Raylene, from the beginning." I don't remember standing. I don't remember walking back inside. I only remember my fingers on my phone, pulling up the document scanner, my voice shaking on a voice memo to Chloe. Back in my room, I set up my phone facing me. The room behind me was still, the walls thin. I went live. "My name is Raylene Carter," I said, my voice clear. "And this is the truth about the family who's tried to erase me." I laid the documents out behind me, one by one. "You wanted to call me unstable, vindictive, dangerous." I paused, my hand flat on my chest. "Here's what's dangerous. A family that weaponizes love to take your child." The screen blinked with live viewers. Comments scrolled. I locked eyes with the lens. "You wanted a war," I said. "Now you've got one." The video didn't just go viral, it detonated. Within 48 hours, my face was everywhere, from legal forums to suburban mom blogs, from news segments to advocacy accounts reposting my words over stock footage of baby feet and courtroom steps. I watched my voice, shaky and raw, looped over and over. Some praised me, some called me dramatic, but most listened, and that alone cracked something open. I filed the emergency motion the same day: divorce, full custody, a cease and desist against further contact. Ramona signed the witness affidavit. We compiled screenshots, bank records, call logs, voice memos. For the first time in months, I slept 6 hours straight. Joel's world unraveled faster than I expected. His firm suspended him pending internal review when the documents surfaced, alongside complaints of inappropriate conduct toward junior staff. Darla was quietly removed from 3 hospital boards. I heard through Ramona that the church revoked her parenting seminar slot. I didn't smile, but I did feel breath return to my ribs. The silence from their side was almost louder than their previous noise. Relatives who used to send me smiley-face texts during holidays now left me on red. Joel's sister blocked me. Fine. I had no use for diplomacy anymore. With Ramona's help, I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and old tile that hummed when the heater kicked in. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Safe. Solid. I hung one photo on the wall, me holding my son, cheeks pressed, both of us tired and real. I picked up part-time remote work, accounting. The numbers calmed me. I started seeing a trauma counselor who didn't flinch when I said I sometimes heard Darla's voice in my sleep. She told me to write, so I did. I started a blog under a fake name. It wasn't flashy, just black text on a white background. No photos, no dates, just stories. I wrote about postpartum nightmares, about the day I bled alone in a hospital bathroom while Joel checked his email. I wrote about the day my lawyer showed me the clause where my motherhood had been preemptively deleted. My first post ended with, "They tried to erase me. But my son will grow up seeing me choose my voice even when it shook." Last week, Joel's sister sent me a message. Just one line. "He's in therapy now. He talks about you, about how he broke something good." I didn't respond. I didn't even screenshot it. Instead, I whispered to my son as I wrapped him in a towel after bath time, "You are real. I am real, and no one gets to rewrite that." Healing didn't come in a wave. It arrived in quiet mornings when I made coffee without looking over my shoulder, in grocery aisles when I didn't rush, in the moments I caught myself smiling, not for anyone else, but because my body remembered how. There are still things I don't say out loud. There are questions I hope my son never asks. But if he does, someday, maybe when he's old enough to understand nuance and memory, maybe I'll tell him the truth. Or maybe I won't say a word. Maybe I'll just show him who stayed. If you've made it this far, thank you for witnessing my journey, for listening when so many others turned away. Sharing my story wasn't easy, but I hope it reached someone out there who needed to hear. You are not crazy, you are not alone, and you do not need anyone's permission to protect yourself and your child. Life doesn't always give us clean exits or perfect justice. But healing starts when you stop asking for permission to exist. If you've ever been silenced, shamed, or sidelined, let this be a sign. It's not too late to rewrite your narrative. What would you do if the people who should protect you tried to erase you instead? Have you ever had to reclaim your own voice? If this story touched your heart, leave a 1 in the comments, or tell me where you're watching from. And if it didn't, tell me why. Your voice matters here. If you believe stories like this need to be heard, please subscribe to the channel so you never miss what comes next.